Right now on Morning News Now, show of force. President Trump ramping up the rhetoric on Iran this morning. In a new interview, the commander-in-chief threatening to take the nation's oil while seizing a critical island hub that's responsible for more than 90% of its exports. It comes as thousands of additional U.S. troops arrive in the Middle East amid growing fears of a possible ground assault. We're covering it all. Also this morning, a welcome sigh of relief for TSA workers across the country. Back pay could be on its way as soon as today after weeks of uncertainty brought on by that ongoing partial government shutdown. But on Capitol Hill, there's still no end in sight as Congress skips town for the holiday recess. We've got the latest from Washington in a bit. Plus, America's fight over fluoride in drinking water from coast to coast. One southern community shocked to learn that the mineral's not only been pulled from their supply, it hasn't been there for years. And later in the hour, unbelievable, a bracket-busting buzzer beater amping up the drama of March Madness overnight, punching UConn's ticket to the Final Four in true show-stopping fashion. An unbelievable shot.
Unreal ending.
Let me just use really not technical terms. Yeah. Many feet away from the three-point line. And he was a freshman.
He was a freshman. It's incredible. Also, my bracket was already in pieces, and then that shattered the little piece that was left into more pieces. So it's okay. That's done. Good to have you with us on this Monday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for starting your week with us. We're going to begin this morning with the ongoing war with Iran, which is now in its fifth week. President Trump told the Financial Times this weekend that he would like to, quote, take the oil in Iran and is considering seizing Karg Island, which is responsible for moving more than 90% of Iran's oil exports.
The president's comments came as oil prices jumped and U.S. stocks slid ahead of Monday's market open. On top of that, Iran said it's ready to respond to a possible U.S. ground invasion. U.S. Central Command is confirming an additional 3,500 troops have arrived in the Middle East. Strikes continued across the region this week, and that includes an attack on Israel from the Iranian-backed Houthi militant group based in Yemen. At the same time, Israel continues to expand its ground campaign in southern Lebanon, battling another Iranian-backed group, Hezbollah. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Doha, Qatar, with more on everything that's going on. Raf, good morning. Bring us up to speed on the war with Iran. What's the latest we're learning about the strikes we've just seen across the region this weekend?
Joe, Savannah, good morning. All across the Middle East, people are holding their breath, waiting to see if President Trump will give the order to put American boots on the ground in Iran. But for now, there is no let-up in strikes going in both directions. The United States and Israel continuing to pound Iran over the weekend. It does not seem to be changing the policy of the Iranian regime, though. The Strait of Hormuz remains blocked. The Iranians showing no signs of backing down, and they continue to lash out against their neighbors here in the Gulf and in Israel. We've seen a number of drone strikes in Kuwait, Oman, other countries, as well as ballistic missile attacks aimed at Israel. But guys, in some ways, the biggest development is the one you mentioned. The Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen have entered the conflict for the first time. They fired several missiles at Israel over the weekend. The reason this is so significant is you will remember that this rebel group really snarled international shipping back in 2024, threatening ships in the Red Sea. And the big concern is if they resume those attacks, you could see oil prices surging again, with the Iranians blocking the Strait of Hormuz and the Houthis threatening transit in the Red Sea. Guys.
Raf, as the U.S. continues to build up its military presence in the Middle East, President Trump says he would like to seize Iran's oil, as we mentioned. Here's what he told reporters on Air Force One yesterday, though.
They're agreeing with us on the plan. I mean, we asked for 15 things, and for the most part, we're going to be asking for a couple of other things. And just to prove that they're serious, they gave us all these boats. When I talked about 4 days ago, a present, I said they gave me a present, but I didn't think I was at liberty to say what it was. What it was 8 plus 2. It's 10 massive boatloads of oil. And today they gave us another present. They gave us 20 boatloads of oil. That starts being shipped tomorrow. We're having very good meetings, both directly and indirectly, and I think we're getting a lot of very important points.
Raf, how's Iran responding to all of this?
Well, guys, let's just start by saying there's no basis in international law for just taking the oil of another country, even if you are at war with them. From the Iranian perspective, they are not sounding anywhere near as rosy about these negotiations as President Trump is. The Speaker of the Iranian parliament, he's one of the few surviving senior figures in the regime, has been saying this talk from the president about negotiations is really just his way of trying to manage the oil markets, trying to give them some reason for optimism and keep the prices from coming down. This same figure, who is a former Revolutionary Guard commander, is saying that Iran would welcome a U.S. ground invasion because it would give them the opportunity, in his words, for Iranian forces to set American troops on fire. Guys.
Raf, when we talk about global reaction, we know foreign ministers from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt did meet in Pakistan this weekend to discuss how to end the war. Did anything meaningful come out of those talks?
So, Joe, it's very notable. Foreign ministers from Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt getting together, not in the room, the Iranians or the Americans. There is obviously a limit to how much progress these intermediaries, these want-to-be intermediaries, can make without the main players in the room. There has been a lot of discussion about a potential meeting between the Iranian and American sides, directly or indirectly, in Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. At this point, there is nothing scheduled. I'll mention we interviewed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky over the weekend. He did say that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who are the president's point men on these international negotiations, have delayed several meetings that were supposed to be about Russia-Ukraine in order to focus on the war with Iran and the potential for negotiations. Guys.
All right. Raf Sanchez in Doha. Raf, thank you.
On Meet the Press this Sunday, one Republican senator weighed in on whether he supports U.S. boots on the ground in Iran. NBC News Now anchor and Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker brings us that interview now. Kristen, good morning.
Hello there, Joe and Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I asked Republican Senator James Lankford if he would support putting U.S. boots on the ground in Iran. The Wall Street Journal announcing they could be preparing some 10,000 troops to be deployed to the region. Would you support the president putting U.S. boots on the ground in Iran, Senator?
Well, that is a different story. We've got to be able to know what the objectives are and what they're actually carrying out. So to be very clear on this, the worst thing that can happen is to be able to have this kind of conflict start and to not end it, to leave it undone. We've got to be able to finish this. Again, almost 5 decades, Iran has been attacking Americans at every single chance that they have at any moment through their allies in the region, through all these terrorist proxies that they have in Iraq, and all the way through Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. They're going to continue to be able to come after us until we make them stop. The focus here is to be able to stop them from attacking us and to make sure it does not restart again.
So you say it is a different story when we're talking about U.S. boots on the ground. Let me ask you bluntly, Senator, do you believe President Trump would need congressional approval if he, in fact, does want to put U.S. boots on the ground in Iran?
If we have a long-standing war that's happening, go back again to what happened in Iraq or in Afghanistan, yes. If this is to protect Americans and to be able to make sure that we're in there for a season and we're stopping and getting out, that's very, very different. So again, this is all contingent. It's an interesting question to be able to talk about on the political side, but really the focus needs to be on how do we make them stop attacking us. That's the main focus. The president has the authority to be able to prevent someone from attacking us. That is what he's doing right now. If we're going to have a long-standing occupation, that's a very different issue. But I don't think that's even what President Trump is even talking about. We're not trying to be able to go in and to be able to occupy the country or to be able to have a long-standing, long-term war. No one wants to see that. So I'm looking forward to us getting this mission complete and getting out of there.
You can see my full interview and a whole lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Kristen Welker, thanks so much for bringing us that. Also on Sunday, Iran's parliament speaker said his country is ready to face possible U.S. troops on the ground as he accused Washington of secretly planning an assault while seeking negotiations to end the war. That is according to 2 state-affiliated outlets. NBC News military analyst Colonel Steve Warren joins us from Washington with more. Colonel, always great to see you. So President Trump was asked about this, about boots on the ground on this flight back to Washington yesterday. Let's listen to what he told reporters.
Are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them all because of the power. Look, I would say we're just like we're ahead of schedule on the ballroom. In a much bigger way, we're ahead of schedule with Iran. We're weeks ahead of schedule.
Colonel, what alternatives to boots on the ground is the president talking about here?
So boots on the ground, Savannah, represents sort of land power. Alternatives to that are sea power and air power, and that's really what the president is primarily exercising now. Today, it's primarily air power, right, which much of it launched from the sea, but it's air power. It's aircraft creating pressure on Iran. Sea power, the opportunity to blockade an island, to use our sea-based platforms to open up the straits. There really are a lot of military options at the president's fingertips right now. And of course, he's now got these Marines in place. So he now has all three components really ready to go.
As we mentioned, Colonel, President Trump told the Financial Times this weekend he would like to take Iran's oil. He's considering seizing Harg Island. How might the U.S. approach a military operation like that and help us understand just how significant this island is?
Sure. Harg Island. So 90% of Iran's oil exports go through Harg Island. I think it's important to note that it's really just a stop in the funnel. So the oil isn't underneath Harg Island. The oil is in other places, and it goes through Harg Island to get transited out. So it's important to the Iranians for their hard currency. Keeping in mind it makes up about 10%, I think, of their GDP. Now, that all said, seizing Harg Island, I think, is something that we have adequate force in position now to do. So, there's a Marine Expeditionary Unit, about 3,000 Marines in place now. A second one is en route. Between those two ground forces, I believe that's enough to seize Harg Island. Very quickly, though, Joe, there's a difference between seizing and holding, right? When you seize something, you take it and then you can leave. But if you want to hold it, you're going to need more forces to keep them resupplied, to keep them protected, and to keep them going.
Colonel, President Trump has also made reference to seizing Iran's stockpile of nuclear material. Is that something that could be done with the size of the force that we have in the region? And I think we have a lot of questions about what they do and do not have when it comes to nuclear material. How does that factor in?
Savannah, the short answer to your question is no. The forces that we have in place now are not adequate to forcibly seize the uranium. We understand, or we believe, that the uranium remains buried underground in one of the nuclear sites that we struck back in June of 2025. If that's the case, you're really talking about an excavation project, right? Heavy equipment, bulldozers, et cetera, to dig through these destroyed nuclear facilities and find that uranium. So it's a major project, and I don't think that we really have the forces in place today to do that, particularly if the Iranians didn't want us there. So they would be here, they would be doing this excavation project, under enemy fire. It's just not feasible.
Colonel Steve Warren, thank you so much.
Much needed relief could be on the way this week for TSA officers all around the country. They are expected to begin getting back pay as soon as today.
President Trump signed an order on Friday directing the Department of Homeland Security to redirect funding to pay TSA workers. The ongoing DHS shutdown is now in its 45th.
Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston with the latest. Priscilla, good morning. So we know DHS says about 500 TSA workers have quit their jobs since the start of the partial government shutdown, so they're not coming back. With that in mind, what is the situation like on the ground? What are we seeing in terms of the long waits at the airports this Monday morning?
Yeah, Joe, it appears that a lot of those other officers, though, who are still on the job have come back. Here at Bush Intercontinental, we have under an hour wait right now during this morning rush. So there is still a line, there is still a wait, but it is a far cry from those hours-long waits that we have been seeing over the past week here at Bush. And we are seeing still some of those long lines in other places, though. You look at in Baltimore, where there was a up to 4-hour wait on Sunday. At LaGuardia this weekend, there were lines that were extending out onto the curb. And we also saw some of that in Philadelphia with those very long lines, as there was a limited amount of checkpoints. So there is still some chaos and some things going on as these airports are trying to get back up and fully operational. But certainly some travelers breathing a sigh of relief to come and find a 1-hour line as opposed to a 4-hour line, as those TSA workers wait to see those paychecks hit their bank accounts today or tomorrow. Joe, Savannah.
So, Priscilla, we mentioned how many agents have quit. A top TSA official testified before Congress last week, says it takes about 4 to 6 months to train new officers. Then we've also seen the presence of ICE agents at airports across the country over the past week. So just given the number of TSA workers that have quit since the beginning of all this, what do we think happens with ICE? Do they stick around at airports once this is all over? Have they made a difference in helping kind of lighten the load for TSA workers?
Yeah, I mean, certainly for the travelers, they say that these DHS agents who have been on the ground here have been helpful in just directing traffic and coordinating. And we have seen more of them on the ground still here today, with Border Czar Tom Homan saying that they are going to stay in place until these operations get fully back to normal. Take a listen to what he had to say about that.
Look, we're going to continue an ICE presence there and until the airports feel like they're in 100%, in a posture where they can do normal operations. If less TS agents come back, that means we'll keep more ICE agents there.
And just to put it into context, in the past 6 months, TSA officers have worked more than 90 days without a paycheck through 3 different government shutdowns. And so when we look at the number of people that are quitting, it's because of that lack of stability in getting that paycheck and being able to make ends meet. And it does take 4 to 6 months to train a new officer. So it's not like they can just be, new officers can be here at work right away. And so to sort of fill that gap, we're going to see the continued presence of those DHS and ICE officers as folks work to get things back on track at the airports across the country. Savannah, Joe?
Yeah, most definitely not a light switch there when it comes to getting everything back on track. Priscilla, thank you so much. In Washington, a deal to end the DHS shutdown is nowhere in sight. Lawmakers in both chambers left town Friday amid that impasse over competing plans. House Republicans rejected a deal that unanimously passed the Senate. That would have funded most of DHS except for ICE and Border Patrol.
Instead, the House approved their own short-term spending bill to fund the entire agency. Well, with that bill facing steep odds in the Senate, Republican leaders are now tasked with brokering a new compromise as party members continue to point fingers at one another. NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us with the latest here. Megan, good morning. So we've got this stalemate between the House and the Senate, and it sounds like Republicans really aren't even agreeing completely among themselves on how to move forward. Walk us through these recent votes and where you think things go from here.
Yeah, that's right. So we are in day 45 of this partial government shutdown, making it the longest partial government shutdown in the country's history. Now, to walk you through some of these recent votes that we saw late last week, the Senate first passed a bill that would have funded all of the department except for immigration and deportation operations. That bill had passed with unanimous consent, meaning that Republicans had signed on to it as well. It hit a roadblock, though, when it went to the House. That's because House Speaker Mike Johnson rejected it, instead opting for House Republicans to vote, and they passed a bill that would have funded the entirety of the Department of Homeland Security on a short-term basis. That bill, though, does not seem to have any sort of path forward in the Senate, where it would need some Democratic support in order to get past that 60-vote filibuster threshold. And so right now we're really at an impasse. There's really no signs that we're any closer to this getting resolved. And as you mentioned, lawmakers are now on recess. They can always be called back if the sides seem to be getting closer to any kind of deal for lawmakers to get to some kind of vote. But we don't really have any indication that we're getting closer to that. A source had told NBC as well that Senate Majority Leader John Thune had told Senate Republicans that he was in touch with Democrats to see if there was any kind of bill that they would support passing in order to end this impasse. A spokesperson for Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, though, had responded to this. Take a look at what he had to say. He said that Leader Schumer made clear that Democrats would not accept anything less than was passed unanimously by the Senate. Republicans shouldn't look to Senate Democrats to fix their own internal caucus problems. And Joe and Savannah, a reminder as well that as this continues, federal workers at most agencies across DHS are still going without a paycheck right now.
You know, Megan, when these lawmakers got home, they might have seen any one of these thousands of No Kings protests that took place in cities around the country Saturday. Tell us more about that and what the turnout was like.
Yeah, organizers had planned more than 3,000 events that took place across the country, with some actually taking place around the world as well. Now, in advance of these protests, organizers had said that they were expecting millions of people to turn out, and there was certainly a high turnout at cities across the country. Now, this comes as critics of the administration are protesting anything from the administration's handling of the war in Iran to rising prices to things like the administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case and, of course, immigration and deportation operations. So the flagship rally took place in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, Minneapolis being, of course, where federal agents earlier this year had shot and killed Alex Preddy and Renee Good, sparking more backlash to the administration's deportation operations, and was one of the reasons as well why Democrats had urged there to be immigration and deportation reforms in order to fund the entirety of the department. So at that flagship rally, we heard from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and even Bruce Springsteen as well, who was there. Take a listen to what they had to say.
When the wannabe dictator in the White House sent his untrained, aggressive thugs to do damage to Minnesota, it was you, Minnesota, who stood up for your neighbors. It was Minnesota who said, not on our watch.
They picked the wrong city. Your strength and your commitment told us that this is still America.
Now, this isn't the first time that Springsteen has spoken out against the Trump administration. He's consistently been a staunch critic of the administration. He performed at the rally as well. And Joe and Savannah, this was the third No Kings rally in less than a year, with the first one taking place in June of last year, Joe and Savannah.
Megan, before we let you go, I do want to ask you one other piece of DHS news. The department says Corey Lewandowski is no longer working for them. He was a top advisor to former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. What do we know about the circumstances here?
Yeah, so a spokesperson telling reporters that Lewandowski is no longer employed, is no longer at the Department of Homeland Security. As you mentioned, he was a top advisor to now former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and his future at the department, or whether he had a future at the department, had been unclear after President Trump had fired Noem and replaced her with now Secretary Markwayne Mullin. Now, Lewandowski as well had been facing criticism and controversy too. So Senate Democrats last week had launched Democrats, I should say, launched an inquiry into Lewandowski last week over allegations that he sought personal payments from contractors, which he had denied. Now, Lewandowski and Noem had also faced allegations that they had been having an affair, and they had denied that as well, Joe and Savannah.
All right, Megan, thank you so much.
Golf icon Tiger Woods is facing new legal questions after another high-profile car crash. Woods was charged with driving under the influence after he was involved in a rollover crash on Friday afternoon in Florida. Authorities say Woods was driving at a high rate of speed when he clipped a truck's trailer and flipped his vehicle. No one was injured in the crash. Officials said Woods did pass a breathalyzer test but refused to give a urine sample that would have tested for drugs. This is the second time he has been arrested under suspicion of a DUI in Florida. Woods was taken into custody but posted bond later that day. Comes just days after the 50-year-old was back on the course competing again after his 7th back surgery. Woods has not responded to requests for comment from NBC News.
All right, let's now get a check on your morning news now weather. We have meteorologist Andrea Romero.
Yeah, she's got your forecast on this Monday morning. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. It's looking like a busy weather week as we track some changes across the country. First, we have this front that's going to be bringing some strong wind gusts to the high plains today, and it's also bringing some spotty showers to the northeast and also parts of the northern Rockies. However, we are expecting the threat of some severe weather as the system continues to move towards the Midwest. Strong to severe storms will be targeting parts of the Great Lake region tomorrow, and some of that severe weather threat might extend into the northeast, the interior northeast, possibly into Wednesday. We have the marginal risk of some strong storms even down south into the southern plains. So looking at that severe threat into late tonight, we're talking about damaging hail, possibly up to 2-inch possible diameter hailstones. We also have wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour and the low threat of some tornadoes that can develop, and that risk will extend into tomorrow. And we're looking at the possibility of that risk into parts of Pennsylvania and even the interior parts of New York State. As far as rainfall forecast, there is a slight chance of some flash flooding that can develop all the way possibly from Illinois into Vermont due to that that heavy rainfall, 2 to 3 inches. Rainfall is possible along that area. So we're looking at that severe weather. And obviously, we have that record warm temperature we've seen in March. We're going to start seeing a little shift, some cooling down a little bit. But it's April this week.
Right. The year is flying by.
Yes. Isn't it incredible, right?
Thank you. Much more to come on this Monday morning edition of Morning News Now. A little later, we're going to dive into how the ongoing war with Iran is impacting wallets here at home. And it's not just gas prices that are ticking higher lately.
First, though, after the break, how Asia is grappling with a multinational oil crisis thousands of miles away from the violence in the Gulf. That's next. We are back now with a look at how the war with Iran is impacting the world's energy supply. Asia is one of the areas hardest hit by the turmoil in the Strait of Hormuz.
Shortages are leading some governments to declare national emergencies. NBC News International correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer has the details from Taiwan.
With war in the Middle East disrupting how the world gets its energy, the impact is being felt thousands of miles away. And nowhere is the shock more acute than in Asia. Shortages of oil and gas have triggered protests in India and rationing in Bangladesh. There are long lineups for fuel from Pakistan to Cambodia to Vietnam. Sri Lanka shortened work weeks to save electricity, and Thailand's news anchors ditched their suit jackets to avoid using air conditioning.
Energy emergency.
In the Philippines, the president declared a national energy emergency to stave off what the International Energy Agency has described as the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. It's made Asia ground zero for an energy crisis that threatens to cripple an entire continent.
Take Taiwan. More than 95% of the energy being used here is imported, and most of it is coming from the Persian Gulf. The longer supplies are choked, the greater the risk that some parts of Asia could be running on empty.
About 1/5 of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz, connecting the Gulf to the Indian Ocean. Much of what leaves is bound for Asia, a region that's also highly dependent on liquefied natural gas, or LNG, from Qatar. Since the war started, maritime traffic in the strait has all but collapsed, though Iran now says non-hostile ships can transit safely. In a statement, Iran's mission to the United Nations said ships can use the waterway provided that they neither participate in nor support acts of aggression against Iran, adding that any movement still needs permission from Iranian authorities. Still, maritime tracking data shows traffic through the critical energy choke point remains at a fraction of normal levels. A Chinese oil tanker, the Bright Gold, was among the few ships to go through a so-called safe corridor. Crew members posting videos of the journey to Chinese social media, telling users they were carrying Iranian crude to the mainland.
Another more critical thing is, are there any ships willing to coming in? Because it has to be two round. Otherwise, you're just like clearing out the backlog, but the flow itself or the trade is still frozen.
Even China, with its significant reserves, is feeling the pinch. It was the first Asian country to ban fuel exports after the war began. There are government controls, yet prices for fuel have been creeping up. The impact is huge, says this rideshare driver. It's hard to make any money. U.S. allies like Japan and South Korea are tapping strategic oil reserves to meet demand, but still urging people to curtail everything from showers to charging phones.
The shortages have governments across Asia scrambling to buy energy at whatever the cost, and that is proving to be a boon for gas companies in the U.S.
The Trump administration has seized on the anxiety here, announcing $57 billion in gas deals with Asian governments, including Taiwan, where the semiconductor industry alone consumes 10% of the island's electricity. Every country across Asia is now on an emergency footing, with supplies dwindling, prices on the rise, and the crisis deepening. Janice Mackey-Frayer, NBC News, Taipei.
Coming up, America's fight over fluoride boiling over down south this morning.
The Alabama community that not only learned the mineral wasn't in their water supply, it hasn't been there for years. Our investigation next. We're back now with a new development in the debate over adding fluoride to drinking water.
Residents of Birmingham, Alabama were informed earlier this month that their drinking water would no longer contain fluoride. But then they learned the water utility had actually stopped adding it years ago without telling the public.
NBC News health reporter Aria Bendix has covered the issue, joins us now with more. Aria, good morning. Thanks for joining us. We know Birmingham has 4 water utility filtration plants. You've learned 3 of them stopped doing this more than 2 years ago. Walk us through some of your reporting and what happened there.
Right. So this particular water system, Joe, which covers Birmingham and its neighboring suburbs, has been embroiled in controversy for many years. To the best of our knowledge, we believe that the previous leaders who ran the utility didn't actually maintain its fluoridation systems because they were old and out of date. And so they temporarily stopped using them. Then when new leadership stepped in last year, they decided it would be too expensive to repair these systems and start adding fluoride again. Now, the situation is somewhat unorthodox because a fluoride ban would normally go through the local legislature or city council, so residents can have some input on whether they support it or not. But in this case, it seems that the utility pulled fluoride without the public's knowledge, Joe.
So, Aria, 2 states already have bans on adding fluoride to water. At least 19 others are currently considering similar legislation. What are we hearing from Alabama officials on where the state overall stands on the issue?
Right. So on the state level, Alabama has historically supported fluoride in drinking water, but a growing number of local water systems have actually started to reconsider, not just in Alabama, but across the country. Some of that is due to cost constraints, but a part of it is also due to these growing unsubstantiated fears about the safety of fluoride in water, in particular concerns about IQ loss or neurodevelopmental disorders in children. And we really just don't have the evidence to suggest that those are real issues of concern, Savannah.
So if we look at the country right now, about 72% of people in the U.S. live in areas where fluoride is still added to the water. And we know some states have laws actually mandating it. Has the CDC or just any other health agency weighed in on these decisions to stop adding fluoride?
Right. So states actually aren't required by the CDC or the EPA to add fluoride to drinking water, but most do it because it has this demonstrated health benefit, right? We know that fluoride in community water systems can help prevent cavities, which is why the CDC and many major medical organizations recommend it. Now, the concern here in Birmingham is that many young children may not have been getting fluoride at a time when their baby teeth are more susceptible to tooth decay. And we know that oral health is really tied to a person's overall health and even the risk of infection or chronic disease.
Aria, we know that this is such a topic of conversation and debate right now, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really taking a stand on this and starting this conversation, and then lawmakers, some of them arguing that we get enough fluoride from brushing our teeth or just using mouthwash. What are experts saying on the matter of if that's enough or if you need this in your drinking water?
Yes, Savannah, many experts that I've spoken to would push back on that claim. The fluoride that's in mouthwash or toothpaste is better than nothing, but it's not a substitute for the fluoride that we're consuming really throughout the day in very small doses in our drinking water. And it's really the combination of those two that's responsible for preventing tooth decay on a widespread level in the U.S., Savannah.
All right. Aria, thank you so much.
Well, New Jersey high school teachers getting attention not just for allowing artificial intelligence in the classroom, but for creating a chatbot of his own to get the best out of his students. NBC News Now anchor Gotti Schwartz shows us how the high-tech tool works.
These are good, though. Scott Kern is a natural teacher. I can't imagine doing anything else. I love teaching. But when he wanted to teach himself about AI bots, he never imagined it'd lead to this. I took a course learning how to build custom bots, and immediately I started thinking, how could I use this to help kids? And what he built ended up being a bot to help teach his students that teach themselves. It will direct them to a part of their essay where they didn't get a point, where they struggled in some way, and then it will give them steps and questions for how to improve in their writing. Students make the revisions, and the bot gives them instant feedback. Once they get the point, the bot moves them to the next part of their essay. What exactly is this? Kern thinks of his homebrewed bots as kind of a practice squad, so his varsity team can test their skills. But I'm the coach who's standing there saying, let's go back, let's redo it this way. Here's a new step for how you can do this better. Try again. And he says it's led to MVP-type results for his students. 94% of the students in my class passed, which is amazing. It's the highest pass rate I've ever had. Uncommon Schools looked at the data and said, we think that
AI use made an increase of 22% in the pass rates.
And students are receiving higher AP scores, like sophomore Nazia Palmer, who received a 5 on her AP US history exam last year. Highest score possible.
The AI chatbot did help me with creating an essay because it told me specific points that would improve certain parts of my essay.
Winning test scores are great, but Kern also has his eyes on a much bigger prize: critical thinking about the tech that will be growing alongside him.
It's a broad set of tools that are integrated in lots of technology that we're using every day. I think this is here to stay.
So far, the results are shining through.
It has helped me. Every single time I'm doing a test, I'm like, oh, so what should I ask myself? I basically ask myself the same questions the AI would ask me, and then use that to help me with my writing during tests.
But as AI makes its way into nearly everything we do, we're still going to need teachers.
Human connection is like the #1 thing that education is about. So AI is not going to replace teachers. It should never replace peer-to-peer discussion, never replace whole class discussion, and I would never allow that.
Kern students say the AI chatbots are like having a second teacher in class.
I find it really helpful, how we can get the feedback faster and we can immediately implement it in our writing instead of having to wait until he grades and gives us feedback. So I kind of like how we have a teacher and we have AI helping us at the same time.
Teachers teaming up with chatbots to bring the past into the future.
We're going to talk about the 1920s.
Gutty Schwartz, NBC News.
It's like a really smart teacher's aide. All right,
cool, yeah.
Coming up, baseball is back in full swing. It's not just the men who are taking the field this season.
Yeah, Morning News Now returns the leading ladies of a brand new professional league that's been in the works for years. We'll step up to the plate next.
We're back now with more on the war with Iran and its impact on the economy here at home. From fuel to fertilizer, the obstacles for global supply chains are now adding up. NBC News business reporter Ali Canal takes a closer look at how the conflict could hit your wallet.
For many Americans, the most obvious economic impact of the war with Iran is higher gas prices.
It used to be 60-something to fill my tank. Now it's 90-something.
But the economic spillover is going far beyond just gas. The conflict is disrupting global supply chains for other surprising and essential products, from fertilizer to helium to the cost of borrowing money.
Across the world, the ripple effects are going to be quite significant.
Take farmers, for example. About 1/3 of the world's fertilizer ingredients move through the Strait of Hormuz. But now, with that critical shipping route at a near standstill, farmers like Tom Waters in Missouri saying that the cost of what they need to plant this year is already climbing.
We just have to really work hard to trim our cost.
Since the start of the conflict, prices for urea, a key nitrogen-based fertilizer, have climbed more than 70%. Just as demand for fertilizer and fuel is ramping up right now, with farmers preparing for spring planting. And when farm costs rise, food prices can follow. And the impact could be even more severe elsewhere around the world. Another casualty of the conflict? Helium. It's industrially critical for everything from semiconductor chips to MRI machines to rockets. And it's produced as a byproduct of liquid natural gas, or LNG, processing. Qatar is the second largest supplier in the world. Now supplies are shrinking and prices ballooning, leaving buyers in a squeeze.
They'll pay pretty much any price, but it's about, is there an actual interruption in the supplies? Can they get it at all?
And that's not all. Prices for plastics like polyethylene, used in everything from bottles to shopping bags, have surged more than 30% since the war began. Experts also warn the conflict is pushing up borrowing costs. Everything from auto loans to credit card debt and mortgages can become more expensive, even as the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates steady. The average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage has already jumped about 0.5 percentage point since the beginning of the month.
In this environment, we're likely to see those rates remain quite a bit higher than they were pre-conflict, and unfortunately, that will erode affordability for many potential homebuyers, for many potential consumers looking to buy large ticket items.
So even if you're not commuting in a car, the cost of a war thousands of miles away can still hit the wallet. Ali Canal, NBC News.
Got more now on the billion-dollar deal that'll help bring AI-developed drugs to markets all over the world.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has those details in our Money Minute. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning. That's right. Pharma giant Eli Lilly is partnering up with Hong Kong-based Insilico Medicine in a deal worth up to $2.75 billion. That's to develop drugs using artificial intelligence. Insilico has already created dozens of drugs using AI to treat various conditions, including fibrosis and cancer, with many now in clinical stages. Over at the Costco checkout line, customers could soon pass through in less than 10 seconds. The company is piloting automated pay stations paired with pre-scan technology in which shoppers can scan their items while shopping to expedite the checkout process. Executives say early results have revealed an improvement on traffic flow and positive member feedback. And America's favorite little monsters could soon pop up in the iconic windows along Fifth Avenue in New York City. Labubu creator Pop Mart is expanding its retail footprint with a new store. According to the New York Post, the new location would put the viral toy brand just steps away from luxury names like Gucci, Prada, and Louis Vuitton. We've reached out. We haven't yet heard back yet. But guys, I feel like it's just thing after thing with the Labubus. I still don't have one. I know that you got one. You opened it on the Today Show. Do you have one, Joe?
Yeah. Yes, nor do I need one. But I think if you have a store, you're guaranteed to get one, right? Because otherwise there'll be nothing in the store. So it seems like a good solution.
Yeah, very true. There you go. Oh my God, Joe has a collection.
Yeah.
I believe it. You probably have more than just the one that you opened on the Today Show too.
My pound puppies and Care Bears.
Oh my God, thanks, Emily.
That's crazy.
Well, one of the sure signs that summer's finally right around the corner. Major League Baseball got into full swing over the weekend. But today, we are focusing on the ladies who are in the middle of a spring training that has been years in the making. This August, a brand new professional baseball league will have women swinging for the fences for the first time in decades. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk takes us into the growing excitement around this historic upcoming season.
The crack of the bat, the ball snapping into the glove, the sounds of Florida spring training. With a big difference. These players are women getting ready to compete in the first professional women's baseball league in more than 70 years.
Today they're wearing the uniforms for the first time. They're joining their teams for the first time. Most of these players grew up just playing with the boys. So this, right now, this is the real field of dreams.
4 teams, LA, San Francisco, Boston, and New York, will play for about 7 weeks starting August 1st.
It was an answered prayer.
Pitcher Kelsey Whitmore went #1 in the draft.
I love it because God put it on my heart. It sets my heart on fire.
For Monet Davis, softball was never an option.
I was the only girl that played baseball.
She was also the only girl to pitch a no-hitter in the Little League Championship back in 2014. But there was no path to play professionally until now.
What are you most looking forward to in August?
That first game, first pitch, I just can't wait for that.
The new league comes as women's sports are soaring in popularity. Viewership has nearly tripled since 2020, driven by the success of the WNBA. League Commissioner Justine Siegel wants to capture this moment in women's sports.
Now all girls know that they can dream of being a professional baseball player. Just like their brothers, they now have a league of their own.
But don't expect this league to look like the one from the 40s and 50s, or that movie from the 90s.
There's no crying in baseball!
In this league, there will be no skirts.
People can expect passion. People can expect
emotion.
Oh, so much emotion. I mean,
crying?
I've definitely cried in baseball because of how much I love it.
It turns out crying in baseball is just fine, and women can really play the game. Now we all have a chance to watch them. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, Fort Myers, Florida.
Coming up, a positive push going viral right here in New York City.
After the break, we're going to introduce you to the influencer who's using his internet fame to help the city's precious shelter pups find their forever home. This is Morning News Now. Finally this hour, a story that's truly positive. It's about one man who's fetching a new way to help shelter dogs get adopted.
Yeah, you might have seen these videos. They're posted by Brian Reesberg. He first became a viral sensation for carrying his corgi around New York City in a backpack, and now he's using that fame to help bring attention to some of the millions of pups looking for permanent homes. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa has more.
As
There we go. There we go.
This is part of Brian Reesberg's weekly routine.
Want to go on a ride?
Dropping by Best Friends Animal Society in New York City.
Good job.
To take out a rescue dog in need of a home.
Good girl.
For a few hours. We joined him for an afternoon adventure with champagne.
What are the benefits of taking a dog out like this?
It's really good for their mental well-being. You know, they're in the shelter a lot, so when they go out, it's a de-stressor for them. And honestly, as a human, it's a de-stressor for you as well.
Their outings include meeting new friends.
You want to say hi?
Hi! Oh, you're so cute.
A snack.
What about this? Look.
A little hat for you.
And a new accessory.
She's all bundled up. Come on, Champagne.
Next up, a pup cup.
Oh.
Or two.
2 pup cups.
2 pup cups.
And a third on the subway.
Had to bring it on the train.
It's funny to see how many people are just smiling in your direction because everyone's looking at Champagne.
Yeah, it's hard not to. You see a dog in a backpack, you got to stop and take a picture.
It's something he actually designed to bring his own dog, who has arthritis, on the ice, hikes, and the subway, which requires pets to be in a carrier.
You want to go for a ride?
The film school grad turned entrepreneur documents the excursions for social media at Mad Max Fluffy Road with the goal of finding the perfect match for these dogs in need.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He writes, 70-pound Panetta likes running, romping, and looking real cute. And Misty Sky embodies one eye, full heart, can't lose. This video of Pear drew more than 2.5 million views between TikTok and Instagram.
Oh my God, she's so sweet.
Among the viewers, Richard Hage, who ultimately gave the 5-year-old dog a forever home.
What do you think you get out of being a dog owner?
Oh, the love, the affection that these dogs give, and just coming home to have someone next to you. She put smiles on my face.
Oh, she's such a cutie. I'm sure you get a lot of this.
Demand for Pear was so high after Brian's video, Best Friends actually had to close applications for the pup. The organization has seen a nearly 30% increase in adoptions across its locations compared to last year, and 91% boost in New York City, crediting in part Brian's sizzle reels.
It's been a great opportunity for us to bring awareness to the amount of dogs and cats that are looking for loving homes and how you can play a pivotal role in saving a dog or cat's life.
Those viral videos have also inspired new volunteers to take out dogs as part of Best Friends' Adventure Buddy program, which is how Nia Doherty is spending her lunch break.
And why not use the 30 minutes out of our day to take one of these beautiful, super cute dogs that need the fresh air and the movement and just take them for a quick stroll.
Brian says he never could have imagined how much his videos would spread like wildfire, but hopes to continue making a positive impact.
Every dog I've ever had has made such an indelible mark on me as a human being, and to know that that's going to happen for other people and that I had a small part in helping facilitate that means the world.
Thanks to Emily Ikeda for that report. And we've got a happy pup date. Brian has now helped 20 dogs find homes, including Champagne, who was recently adopted. It is a nice reminder just a few hours at your local shelter can go a long way.
I want to run home to Lucy right now. If you're ready to adopt a forever friend, Best Friends Animal Society is the nation's largest no-kill sanctuary for pets, and it is a great place to start looking.
All right, that is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you for kicking off your week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, historic shutdown for DHS, the longest federal government shutdown in American history, entering day 45. And with Congress out of session for the next 2 weeks, there is no end in sight. The milestone still creating turbulence at airports across the country with record-long security lines. TSA officers could see their first paychecks in weeks as soon as today. It could be days before wait times let up, when travelers can expect to see relief. Widening war in the Middle East, Iran says it is waiting for a possible ground invasion as thousands more U.S. troops head to the region. This as President Trump says he wants to take the oil in Iran. We'll bring you the latest from the ground. Well, here at home, Americans feeling the effects of the war, oil and gas prices continuing to climb, tips to lessen the pain at the pump later this hour. Also, ready for liftoff, 4 astronauts gearing up for a mission, bringing them farther from Earth than any humans have ever gone before. How the history-making crew of Artemis 2 is preparing for Wednesday's launch into deep space. And final shot stunner, UConn defeating Duke in a stunning comeback, sealing their 3rd Final Four spot in the last 4 years. March might be almost over. The madness continues. What to expect from the final matchups? I think we've learned expect anything because the favorite team might not win.
Oh my gosh, my husband screamed so loud on that shot last night. It's like, okay, got it.
A lot of people are emotional now. Let's begin this hour with the travel headaches that continue to play out at airports all across the country. But finally, there is some good news for TSA workers.
That's right. Relief is on the way for those employees as they're expected to receive back pay as soon as today, according to the Department of Homeland Security. It all comes as travelers, though, are feeling the brunt of this partial government shutdown. It's now actually the longest in history as it drags into its 45th day. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest from Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston. Priscilla, good morning.
So a bit of good news for travelers here at Houston's Bush Intercontinental. There is still a line, but it is an under-hour wait, according to what we are seeing. So it is a far cry from that more than 4-hour wait that we had been seeing in the past week. But the chaos isn't over everywhere just yet.
This morning, the wait is not over yet.
We were just hoping that it wouldn't take too long.
Travelers across the country still dealing with delays at airport security. In Baltimore,
the TSA pre-check should be open. It's not.
A bottleneck, with some reporting 4-hour wait times on Sunday. At LaGuardia, lines extended past the terminal, while flyers out of Philadelphia International had tedious waits with limited checkpoints open.
It's just been really sad to see so many airports so packed.
The travel trouble lingering days after President Trump signed an executive order approving TSA officers back pay. Money they could see as soon as today or Tuesday, according to the Department of Homeland Security.
It's good news because these TSA officers are struggling. They can't feed their families or pay the rent.
But even with the paychecks on the way, some TSA officers worry about their financial future.
We can't keep going through this. We haven't even recovered from the last shutdown.
In the past 6 months, TSA officers have worked without pay for more than 90 days during 3 separate government shutdowns. So far, more than 500 officers have quit since the shutdown began. And over the weekend, a record number of TSA call-outs, with more than 3,500 missing a shift on Friday.
This is crazy.
While those numbers are improving, more than a third of officers at Houston's Hobby and Bush and BWI called out on Saturday.
Mine is aloof, you all.
It's unclear how long it will take airports to rebound from the staffing shortage, which has snarled travel plans for weeks.
We're talking about switching to an 8 o'clock or canceling the weekend altogether.
But with the spring break rush rolling on and Easter weekend right around the corner, there could be even more turbulence in the weeks to come.
And as far as those DHS agents that have been on the ground at airports, they aren't going away anytime soon either, at least according to Border Czar Tom Homan. He says that they will remain on the ground at airports until operations are fully back to normal. We know that during this 6 weeks without pay, more than 500 TSA officers actually quit. And so it would take at least 4 to 6 months to train new officers who could step into those roles and really get things back to being 100% at airports across the country.
All right, Priscilla, thank you.
And the stalemate in Washington does continue after Congress left town Friday without a deal to fund key parts of the Department of Homeland Security. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us with the latest on where those negotiations stand or don't stand. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Congress is scheduled to be out of town for the next 2 weeks. And even though TSA workers are expected to get their back pay as soon as today, that solution is temporary, and it's only a fraction of the entire DHS budget. And right now, there is little sign of a breakthrough.
This morning, the Department of Homeland Security remains shut down for the 45th day. And instead of searching for a solution, members of Congress are still pointing fingers at each other.
They want to go back to our open borders.
The Republican Speaker of the House refused to even have a vote on that in the House and went home as we have these big lines at airports.
Lawmakers left town on Friday after House Republicans chose not to put a bill on the floor that was passed unanimously in the Senate that would have funded most of the agency outside of Border Patrol and ICE, arguing that deal, despite being bipartisan, was a gimmick.
We can't have any part of it. This gambit is a joke.
Instead, the House narrowly passed a short-term spending bill that would fund the entire agency, a plan that has no hope of getting the 60 votes it would need in the Senate.
He knows that he sent over something that is just not going to get the support in the Senate.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune has decided not to call the Senate back until he knows he has a deal he can pass.
Democrats are using long TSA lines to throw a temper tantrum about deportations of violent, criminal, illegal aliens.
Meanwhile, President Trump continues to push Senate Republicans to blow up the legislative filibuster and pass the funding bill with only Republican votes, a path Senate Republicans are not interested in.
I think the Senate is playing it too soft. The Republicans are wonderful people, but we're dealing with very sick individuals. The Democrats are sick.
All this as millions of Americans in cities across the country protested the Trump administration under the banner of No Kings, demanding the president change course on a wide range of issues, including his mass deportation program and the war in Iran.
And a source familiar with the negotiations tells NBC News that Senator Thune informed senators over the weekend that his team is working with Democrats on a solution, but made note of the fact that Democrats have repeatedly rejected short-term funding bills for DHS, like the one the House just passed, and this time would be no different. Joe?
All right, Ryan, thank you.
Let's move now to the latest out of the Middle East as the U.S. enters its 5th week at war with Iran. Strikes continued across the region this weekend, with the Iranian-backed Houthi militant group joining the conflict with an attack on Israel. It comes as Israel continues to expand its ground operation in southern Lebanon, targeting another Iranian-backed group, Hezbollah. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Matt, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. So you can see behind me, this is the result of an Iranian ballistic missile that fell last week. And while there were minimal injuries, what we're seeing here is still a sign that Iran can punch back a month into this war. Here's our report. Today, as thousands more American troops arrive in the Middle East to join a widening war, President Trump sounding optimistic.
I do see a deal in Iran, yeah.
The president said Iran is softening its weeks-long blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
They gave us, I think out of a sign of respect, 20 boats of oil, big boats of oil, going through the Hormuz Strait.
But as global oil prices skyrocket, in an interview with the Financial Times yesterday, the president raising the prospect of seizing Iran's oil, saying, quote, "To be honest with you, my favorite thing is to take the oil in Iran, but some stupid people back in the U.S. say, why are you doing that?" Also floating taking over the island that serves as Iran's main oil hub. Quote, "Maybe we take Harg Island, maybe we don't." It comes as the Washington Post reports that the Pentagon is preparing for weeks of ground operations in Iran, short of a full-scale invasion, according to U.S. officials. NBC News hasn't confirmed that report. The spokesperson for Iran's Revolutionary Guard said U.S. troops will become food for the sharks in the Persian Gulf, and American casualties are rising. U.S. officials say several American servicemen were injured when an Iranian missile and drone slammed into a U.S. base in Saudi Arabia. That Iranian attack may have had help from Moscow, said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He showed intelligence to NBC News' Raf Sanchez that Russia took satellite images of the airbase in Saudi Arabia before Iran attacked it.
I think that in Russian interest to help Iranians, and I know that they share information.
So Russia's involvement would add yet another theater to this already widening war. And now the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen have launched their first attack against Israel so far this year. Now, the Houthis have already blocked shipping before, and so now there are concerns that they could snarl up international trade even more. Guys?
All right, Matt, thank you. And we're going to have more from Raf Sanchez's interview. You just saw a bit of it there with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky later this hour.
Let's now take a look at the economic and financial impact of the war with Brooke DePalma. She's a senior reporter for Yahoo Finance. Brooke, good to have you with us. We've been following the surge in oil prices since the war began. Talk to us about what we're seeing in energy markets right now and just how high could oil prices go if this war does drag on.
Joe, Savannah, good morning. What we are seeing is that energy markets are quickly reacting to these geopolitical risks. We've been seeing these over the past 5 weeks, and it's the same story this morning. Crude and Brent oil picking up as we kick off today's trading session or an hour out from. And what we're seeing is crude oil surpass $100 per barrel. We have Brent right now hovering around $108. And investors here are really trying to just understand and assess just how long will this war pass? When exactly will we see normal flows return to the Strait of Hormuz? And how many ships are actually getting through? And now we heard the latest from President Trump just posting moments ago on Truth Social that if the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately open for business, there could be further attacks on energy infrastructure in addition to a desalination plant as well that is water. And so not only now is this a war on oil, but also this could turn worse and a war on water as well. And so investors trying to understand these long-term risks here.
Brooke, of course, now we're seeing also gas prices quite a bit higher. According to AAA, we now have the current average at $3.99 per gallon. Do we see this breaking that $4 mark this week, and how's that impacting people?
Savannah, it's likely that we could see that $4 mark move this week. We've seen it hovering around $3.97, $3.98, $3.99 as crude oil prices sort of have hovered around that $100 per barrel mark. And from what we're hearing is so far, compared to a month ago, Americans have spent about $8 billion more on gasoline than they were prior. And it's likely that that will surpass $10 billion in the coming days. And what I'm hearing from so many sources is that this could be a long-term problem based upon what we saw in 2022. We saw gas prices surge around $4. That then lasted until November of 2022. And also, keep in mind, this is hitting younger generations disproportionately. We know that Gen Z, millennials, they're traveling to work more, they're commuting more, and therefore they're paying more at the pump. And that could hit their discretionary spending as well. That could have major implications for growth here.
Brooke, another fear here is that all this could just push inflation higher. We know the president has been trying to push the Fed to cut interest rates for some time now, but that would just make inflation worse. So that begs the question, could this inflation actually force the Fed to raise the rates again?
Joe, that is exactly what Wall Street right now is discussing so much. Is this risk higher that the Federal Reserve will end up having to raise rates instead of what we went into this year thinking that they'll ultimately cut rates? Traders now assessing about a 50% chance by the end of 2026 we will see increase in rate hikes by the Federal Reserve as they try to weigh that dual mandate, maximum employment and stable prices. And what I'm hearing from experts is that CPI inflation could tick up about 1% because of these higher prices at the pump. And it really is this ripple effect on the economy. Not only are you paying higher prices at the pump, but also this could cost higher for diesel, higher for clothing transportation, food transportation, and so on. And that could have ripple effects on the economy. Even airline tickets, we're hearing from so many airline CEOs that those could tick higher as well.
All this, of course, has been impacting the stock market. Brooke, how are things shaping up this morning?
This morning, we actually are expected to open up in the green, but this is sort of a pattern that we've been seeing. Every time on Friday, we see the sell-off in the U.S. equity market, the S&P falling higher. Then on Monday, we end up seeing futures open in the green, the S&P 500 able to hold on to that momentum. This has sort of been a pattern that we've been seeing over the course of these past 5 weeks as this war persists. But the S&P 500 was on its fifth week of losses last week, and the Dow and NASDAQ entered into correction territory.
All right, Brooke, thank you so much. Let's get a check on your Monday weather outlook with meteorologist Andrea Romero.
Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. And we begin the week by tracking the chance of some severe weather along this front, mostly for late tonight into tomorrow. We have the isolated chance of some flooding occurring, some flash flooding all the way from Chicago into New England. And we do have this slight risk of some severe weather developing where we could have some hailstone, perhaps 2-inch in diameter. And even the possibility of some isolated tornadic activity. Now, this front will basically stall all the way from Long Island into Texas, and we do have a severe threat for storms likely in the southern plains into Wednesday as well. As far as the temperatures, we continue with these above average temperatures, 15 to 30 degrees here along the Mississippi Valley into the southwest, where today we can once again see some record high temperatures temperatures perhaps more than 25, 26 degrees above average in parts of Kansas City. Some of that warm air will be shifting to the east tomorrow. And up here in New York, we can have temperatures up to 20 degrees above the average temperature for this time of year. We do have that cold front that will be sweeping through. It'll begin to drop the temperatures, and by the end of the week, we're looking at more average-like temperatures for parts of the eastern part of the country. Now, as we look here at the fire alerts, of course, that hot, dry air, along with those gusty winds, that dry vegetation along the Rockies, that whole area into the plains, we continue to have those red flag warnings throughout the day today. And then looking at the national forecast, we can see some showers and storms in Florida. And of course, that's where a lot of attention is going to be in the next couple of days along the Space Coast, because of course, we're looking out for that launch window forecast to see if we're going to be able to return to the moon. And we're expecting so far for Wednesday, it's not looking bad. At least we don't have the chance of thunderstorms, maybe a 20 to 30% chance of showers. So let's hope that we can lift off.
We need a good moon forecast here in Florida.
Exciting, though. Thank you. We've got much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, those gas prices we're just talking about soaring ahead of the busy Easter travel weekend. We're going to have tips on how you can save at the pump.
Up first, an NBC News exclusive interview. Ukraine's president sitting down with Raf Sanchez. He expressed concerns over the conflict in the Middle East as his country continues to face its own conflict with Russia. We are back with more of that exclusive NBC News interview with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He alleges that Russian intelligence is supporting Iran in its strikes against the U.S. in the Middle East. Zelensky also says that he is worried about American weapons being diverted to that region instead of Ukraine for its years-long war against Russia. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez sat down and spoke with Zelensky. He joins us now from Doha, Qatar, with more on that conversation. Raf, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Zelensky here in the Middle East over the weekend signing a couple of deals where Ukraine would provide its expertise in countering drone and missile attacks, and in return, wealthy countries like Qatar here in the Gulf offering billions of dollars in investment in the Ukrainian defense industry. But we did also speak about the role that Russia is playing in supporting Iran, and at one point, the Ukrainian president getting his phone out and reading to us from the daily summary he gets every day from his spy agencies.
In an interview in Qatar, President Zelensky revealing Russia's intelligence support for Iran as it strikes U.S. forces in the Middle East.
Do they help Iranians? Of course. How many percent? 100%.
Whipping out his phone to read from his daily intelligence briefing, which says Russia took satellite images of this U.S. airbase in Saudi Arabia 3 times in the days before Iran attacked the facility, wounding U.S. troops.
I think that in Russian interest to help Iranians, and I know that they share information.
The war is consuming huge numbers of U.S.-made missile interceptors.
How worried are you about American weapons that are supposed to go to Ukraine instead coming here to the Middle East?
I'm very worried. I hope that the United States will not make such mistake.
Zelensky has been visiting Arab states under attack, offering his country's hard-won expertise in drone warfare.
The U.S. has lifted some sanctions on Russian oil.
Yeah.
The Kremlin is benefiting from higher oil prices. Is Vladimir Putin the big winner from this war?
He has benefits, a lot of benefits of this war. Russia needs long war in Middle East because the focus will be on Middle East.
You think it's in Vladimir Putin's interest for this war at least to drag on?
100%.
Let me just ask you very directly.
Yeah.
Do you think President Trump cares about the future of your country?
Hope so.
But you don't know for sure?
The policy of the United States today, they care about the United States more. It's understandable, by the way. We understand it.
And Russia denies that it is helping Iran with targeting. So far, the Trump administration has not yet responded to those allegations from President Zelensky. Joe.
All right, Raf, thank you so much.
This morning, 4 astronauts are making their final preparations for the long-delayed Artemis 2 mission around the moon. That liftoff is scheduled for Wednesday night. The mission has been delayed due to some technical challenges, but now NASA says everything is looking good for a Wednesday launch. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has been covering this mission preparation for years. He's got the latest for us. Tom, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. This is looking very real. The countdown clock picks up this afternoon. The launch window opens at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. These astronauts will not be landing on the moon, but they will travel farther from Earth than any humans ever.
Ready for liftoff at the Kennedy Space Center.
Hey, let's go to the moon!
The Artemis 2 crew now in countdown mode. Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen.
We are ready. NASA is ready. This vehicle is definitely ready to go.
Along for the ride, a stuffed toy named Rise, the crew's zero-G indicator.
And our buddy here named Rise was submitted by second grader Lucas Yee from California.
The original February launch delayed by a hydrogen leak and pressurization issue. Liftoff will mark the first time humans have ever ridden in the Orion space capsule, perched on top of Artemis.
And this is what will happen once in space. Take a look. You can see the Orion space capsule that will enter an orbit around the Earth, going around twice. And then it will head towards the moon, where then it will reach its furthest, or hopes to reach, the furthest the humans have ever traveled into space, 280,000 miles from Earth, something never before achieved. All of this will be accomplished in just 10 days. A mission that then paves the way for a future return to the lunar surface and maybe a permanent establishment of a human presence on our own natural satellite.
It's a stepping stone to Mars, where we might have the most likelihood of finding evidence of past life.
And the Artemis crew will see a part of the far side of the moon that not even Apollo astronauts saw.
This is an exciting time, and it is going to truly test our mettle.
The first Canadian, first woman, and first African American to head to deep space.
It's about human history. It's the story of humanity, not black history, not women's history, but that it becomes human history.
And setting the stage for landing astronauts on the moon in 2028.
So this will be the first time that NASA has launched astronauts into deep space since Apollo in 1972. Yes, they've had some technical challenges. NASA insists they will not take any risks with these astronauts' lives. They will only go when they are 100% sure it is going to be safe. Weather right now, 80% go for a Wednesday launch. So we will all be watching very, very closely, of course. Guys, back to you.
Oh, so excited, Tom. Thank you.
All right, as the Artemis crew gets ready for liftoff, we're hearing from the astronaut who recently returned from space after that medical scare.
Yeah, earlier this year, astronaut Mike Fink became NASA's first medical evacuee after falling ill at the International Space Station. Well, now Fink is sharing more about what happened, saying he suddenly lost his voice for about 20 minutes. He says he felt fine afterwards, and he still does, but exactly what happened to him is still a mystery.
It was one of those things that the doctors are still scratching their heads. And the good news is that we got a lot of good data to show that it wasn't anything bad. We're almost 100% sure that this is a space-related thing. And as we explore space more and spend time in zero gravity, it's really good to know the things that can get us and come up with countermeasures.
Dr. Jennifer Fogarty is the chief scientist at the Center for Aerospace and Extreme Environments Medicine. She joins us now with more on this. Doctor, good to have you with us. We know doctors have ruled out a heart attack for the four-time space flyer, and Fink said he wasn't choking. Everything else still seems to be on the table. What do you make of what happened?
Yeah, it's a real extraordinary opportunity to figure some challenging things out, given what we can't do in space, and look at real time when people become distressed, ill. So I think the crew responded exactly how they should have, calling down, getting medical personnel alerted to the issue, and then started looking at the resources they have. And one of their major tools is ultrasound. In addition to like looking and talking to the person, but that gives us a little bit of insight what's going on with blood vessels in the head, the neck, and the eye, which would be your target areas if someone, reported and was distressed about not being able to speak.
So Fink was about 5.5 months into this mission when this happened. And I think he made such a good point in that clip we played from him about, like, this is an opportunity to really learn what happens, things that could happen to the body in human space. Tell us what we know in that regard and how common it is to develop a medical condition when you are in space for months.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work collecting the data on prior astronauts, both short duration and long duration, and looked at how their health evolves over time, given what they're exposed to, the stressors. Common things happen commonly, so skin issues, rhinitis, meaning allergies, but we do see something that's, very much not Earth-like, which is this large fluid shift to the head and neck. It changes the pressures, how your body moves blood throughout your brain, even the shape and location of your brain and the skull. And those are areas that concern us. And we've been imaging and taking data on that, for about 15 years now to understand the inter-individual variability, like who's vulnerable to these effects, how fast do they manifest, and what does it really mean for their serious health issues emerging during spaceflight. I would say that we've had a very low probability because the main technique is to screen bad things out. Mike also talks about all the work they've been doing post-flight and said they've eliminated that, he had a bad issue happen, such as a heart attack or stroke. And I think stroke was the one that was of serious concern, I'm sure, on orbit at the time. But, there are these transient things that happen that are really hard to track in the human body. They happen very spontaneously and they don't last very long, but that doesn't mean it isn't a signal that something bad could happen in the future. And that's really where the work begins, with trying to understand, where we could measure things to get these signals. Would it be an imaging modality? Would it be blood work? Could it be urine analysis? Or could it be something like a wearable that tells us the body's struggling?
All right. Dr. Jennifer Fogarty, great to have your perspective and your expertise as we try to discuss it and understand this medical mystery.
Fascinating.
I appreciate the time. Good morning.
Coming up, catching up with the second lady.
Usha Vance sat down with our own Kate Snow for a rare interview, how she's juggling family with life on the national stage and the new project she's working on next.
Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with Iranian hackers targeting the director of the FBI.
NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us with the details. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning. Yeah, let's start with those pro-Iranian hackers who published more than 300 emails and pictures allegedly stolen from FBI Director Kash Patel. Now, the information appears to be from a personal email and is from before Patel joined the Trump administration. An FBI spokesperson said in a statement that the agency is, quote, aware of malicious actors targeting Director Patel's personal email information, and we have taken all necessary steps to mitigate potential risks associated with this activity. Now, the hacking group had indicated that the leak was in response to recent FBI and Justice Department actions, including seizing several of the hacking group's websites. Next, let's turn to Senator Cory Booker, who said in an interview on Meet the Press that he's not ruling out a run for president. He emphasized, though, that right now he's focused on running for re-election in New Jersey this fall. Now, earlier this year, too, the Democratic senator said on a podcast that he had not dismissed the idea of running for president again in 2028. Remember, guys, he ran for president in 2020 but dropped out of the Democratic primary. Finally, let's go to the Supreme Court, which will hear arguments this week on a major case on automatic birthright citizenship, which has meant that anyone born in the U.S. is automatically a citizen. The Trump administration, though, is trying to limit birthright citizenship to people with at least one parent who's a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. Now, as part of its arguments, the Trump administration is citing a case from 1884 when the Supreme Court decided that a Native American man did not have birthright citizenship. Native Americans have since been guaranteed birthright citizenship since 1924. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Megan. Appreciate it. Now to another NBC News exclusive. Second Lady Usha Vance is speaking out in a rare television interview.
From a brand new project to juggling her growing family and the new world she finds herself in as wife of Vice President J.D. Vance. NBC News senior national correspondent and NBC News Daily anchor Kate Snow spoke with her. She joins us with these exclusive details. Kate, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. So today, the Second Lady launches an audio and video podcast called Storytime with the Second Lady. She says it's meant to get early readers excited about books and reading. I met her in her office turned kid-friendly recording studio to talk about her busy schedule, which includes raising 3 kids, 8 and under, and now a 4th baby on the way in July. You are the first vice presidential family to have a baby in office since the 1870s.
Right, I learned that after announcement.
I
was pregnant.
How is it going?
It's going well, thank you. There's some differences, obviously. I have to dress up a lot more. My last pregnancy, there were a lot of sweatpants.
Usha Vance has traveled extensively in the past year. The 40-year-old who met her husband when they were students at Yale Law School is the first Indian-American Second Lady and the youngest in decades. As a busy lawyer and mom before her move to D.C., she tries to hold on to some normalcy for her family.
If I wear my jeans and a T-shirt and pull my hair up and go to the grocery store or go to the library, maybe someone will notice, but for the most part, I can just do those kinds of things.
So you can just walk out the door and go to the grocery store? You do that?
Yeah, we do that. We have our neighborhood shops. We have our Costco membership. My
You
kids
have a Costco membership?
Yeah.
See, you understand why that's maybe, like, people wouldn't think that, right?
I could see that, but it's an adventure. I take my kids.
You stopped working in 2024, right after your husband was chosen for the vice president role. Do you miss that? Do you think you'll go back to it?
Oh, certainly. It was really disorienting at first to lose that.
Your whole day changes, right?
But it also was an opportunity. That there are all sorts of things that I actually really care about and want to do. And then when the time comes, I mean, I do intend to work.
Right now, she's launching a new podcast for kids and families, Storytime with the Second Lady.
Because when we read, we grow. We will have someone come in, a special reader, we're calling them, read a fun book, have a very short little conversation, and then invite children to pick up books on their own. It's sort of just an advertisement for reading.
Why is this an issue that you care so deeply about?
Well, I have a longstanding interest in education. It seemed like a really natural fit because we have young children right now. But as I was teaching them to read, I was starting to see some of the statistics out there about the decline in literacy rates, about the fact that this is really a long-term trend, and it's worrisome.
The vice president has said many times that you are one of his biggest counselors. How much on a day-to-day now are you talking to him about what he's working on?
Well, one of the other privileges of this job is that we sort of work together in a way, right? So there are conversations all the time. He has a whole staff of policy advisors and those sorts of things. So it's really when something is troubling him, that's when I come into the picture.
Have you had the conversation about whether he might run for president?
You know, everyone asks me. My attitude is none of this has been planned. I think that my role here is to support him in what he might wish to do and to help him in this moment.
In 2014, you were a registered Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
You're now clearly a Republican. You voted for your husband for Senate. That's public knowledge. I wonder if you feel fully comfortable in the universe that you're in now?
What do you mean?
In the political universe that you're in.
Well, I do feel very comfortable in that no one has ever asked me to engage in any kind of litmus test on anything. And I feel very comfortable in that world. I don't feel like I have to walk around pretending anything of any sort. Sometimes I have thoughts that fit very comfortably into one side or another. Sometimes I have views that are way more idiosyncratic. And it's a world that I think is actually rather accepting of that, since everyone knows that I really care greatly about JD's success.
The Second Lady also talked about how she says it's been a privilege to be more flexible, have more time with her kids. When we met that day on Friday, her youngest had an Easter egg hunt at her preschool, and she was able, guys, to go without watching the clock, right, and thinking, I have to be back at work at this time. Right. She also spoke about Melania Trump, the First Lady, who, moved when her son, Barron, was 10 years old, has been a real help, she said, for her, because she had been through that kind of transition as well and has kind of counseled her.
Very few people can understand what it's like and what they're going through, so to have that.
And very few people have interviewed her, so thank you for bringing us that, Kate.
Thank you.
Coming up, surging prices, oil and gas continuing to climb from the war in Iran.
Thank goodness our friend Brian Chung is here with ways you can save some money next time you fill up at the pump, so stick around. Brian will be right back.
We are back with these gas prices surging again, now closing in on $4 a gallon.
They could climb even higher as holiday and spring break travel pick up, but there are ways you can save.
NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung joins us to break it all down. Brian, great to have you as always. So for people who are really feeling this right now, what are the easiest ways to try to save on gas right away?
Yeah, well, and again, people are going to be driving for spring break. So as you're going out, there's some prep that you can do to make sure that you're not paying more than you need to on gas. Starting off with comparing prices. As you're driving, you're going on a road trip, you can use apps like AAA as well as Gas Buddy to make sure you're really getting the gas station that has the best prices. Fill up on regular if you can. A lot of people who have their cars, they might try to treat their cars nicely by putting premium gas in there. But if you don't need to, just go with the cheaper regular option. The caveat obviously being if you have a type of vehicle that needs premium fuel, obviously that's the minimum you have to give it. Sign up for loyalty programs. ExxonMobil as well as Shell have their own apps where you can save 3 to 10 cents per gallon by using those apps and logging in. And then lastly, take advantage of the cash discount. You'll see, obviously, at the gas station, those kind of double boards. Well, if you pay in cash, you're going to save money. But if you use credit, might as well use those cashback apps so you can get some of that back if your credit card offers that.
Another thing you could do is just try to use less gas. Are
Right.
there some simple, easier said than done, but are there some simple ways to do that?
Yeah, there are ways that you can drive your car and maintain your car to make sure you get maximum fuel efficiency. Starting off with, unfortunately, if you see that check engine light, people tend to just drive through that. This would be a good time to get that checked out if it's affecting your fuel efficiency. Also, make sure that your tires are inflated. If they're a little bit flat, you're going to lose some miles per gallon on that. Drive smoothly. Don't drive recklessly. And even when you're driving on the highways, try to use cruise control. That's going to save you some fuel right there. Remove extra weight from your car. If you have something big in the trunk that you don't need, take it out. That's going to weigh your car down as well. And lastly, just drive less if you can. If you have the ability to take public transit, that's going to save you money. That fare is the same fare as it is most times of the day. And with gas prices rising, it could actually be more, sensible.
All right, so what should people know about spring break travel?
Yeah, so spring break travel, especially if you're flying, because again, prices at the pump are going up, but guess what? So are airline fares because of jet fuel costs.
Right.
Actually, Going.com says that prices in March are up 13%. So if you're planning April, May, June travel, you probably want to buy refundable. And even if the price drops after the fact, try giving your airline a call and see if you can get that difference in e-credit. Again, refundable, especially with those TSA lines, is probably a good idea. Set price alerts to make sure you're getting the best price on that airfare. And then lastly, when you do get to your destination, opt for a smaller car if you can. Obviously, you have a big family, then you got to go with the SUV. But if it's just you, going with a compact car is going to save you money because it's likely going to be more fuel efficient as well.
If looking ahead, we think the prices are going to continue to go up, are there ways that you can actually get ahead of it?
Yeah, well, look, personal finance broadly is something that's on a lot of people's mind. If obviously your gas budget is larger now, then you're going to have to move money around. So use personal finance apps like, for example, Rocket Money that help you keep track of where your spending is. Try to rein in that spending, not spending on things you don't need. No spend days is a thing that's trending on social media. People trying to be a little bit more intentional about what they're buying. And then lastly, investing. I know a lot of people are looking at their 401ks going, whoa, we're down. Don't look. It's down like 10% from the highs. But again, another interpretation is that stocks are on sale. And especially if you're looking at your 401k, that's supposed to be a retirement nest egg. So leave it. Don't change your allocation strategy dramatically. But of course, if you have any questions, consult your personal finance advisor.
Great tips. Brian, thank you so much.
Yep.
Now to our series, The Cost of Denial, taking a closer look at the challenges people face with their insurance providers. In San Francisco, one firefighter is battling cancer while also fighting for the treatment that his doctor says could help save his life. Investigative reporter Begad Shaban with NBC Bay Area has more.
Ken Jones and Helen Horvath have been married for close to 25 years. They met as young firefighters in San Francisco. Ken ultimately became the fire department's lead counselor, helping first responders cope with trauma and serious illnesses.
In the fire service, you need to get yourself checked.
Ken spent his entire career helping others, but his doctor believes those 17 years amid smoke and ash contributed to his diagnosis last year of stage 4 lung cancer. The couple found themselves in a battle against time and against Ken's health insurance, which denied coverage for part of his cancer treatment.
It's painful. It's painful, especially because of how unnecessary it is.
This could have been prevented.
Yes. The suffering of cancer is part of the human condition, but the suffering from insurance struggles is completely unnecessary pain.
Ken's doctor wanted him to get chemotherapy to attack the cancer that had spread throughout his body, and immunotherapy to train his immune system to also fight the disease. Insurance said okay to chemo, but not immunotherapy.
You just automatically depend on that insurance being there, and then when it's not, it's quite a blow.
Blue Shield of California administered Jones's Medicare Advantage plan and told NBC News, our medical reviews follow clinical guidelines and are not based on cost. Now, in its denial letter, Blue Shield acknowledged the immunotherapy prescribed by Jones's doctor is FDA approved, but only as a first-line treatment. The insurer determined Jones is ineligible because he'd already received other medications for his cancer.
Sometimes, though, there's gray area in medicine.
Dr. Matthew Gubens is Ken's oncologist. He believes Blue Shield is misinterpreting medical guidelines and says he should know. He helped craft them. Dr. Gubens is part of a prestigious panel with the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, which issues the nation's most influential guidelines on cancer treatment.
There are edge cases among our patients where those guidelines just don't apply.
Dr. Gubin says Blue Shield is wrong to consider the immunotherapy a new medication for Ken because it was already part of Ken's initial treatment. Doctors paused it to try 2 experimental drugs. Blue Shield still rejected the claim. So Dr. Gubens called the number listed on the denial letter to lodge an appeal.
Did you ever reach anyone? I reached people who apologized, but they weren't the right place to send the appeal to, and often referred me back to the first person I talked to.
How long were you on the phone?
That day, I spent about 3 hours calling different phone numbers for this insurance company.
Ken received more than $50,000 in donations to finally get 1 round of immunotherapy. But the treatment needs to be repeated every few weeks. So Ken and his wife decided to abandon his Blue Shield Medicare Advantage plan in hopes traditional Medicare will cover future bills.
It should not be that hard for us.
Ken, a veteran firefighter, says he's now trying to protect others by sounding the alarm.
You don't stop just caring about other people just because you're having a hard time.
Bigat Shaban, NBC News, San Francisco.
Let's get a look at what's making financial headlines this morning. One of Google's AI search tools now available across the globe.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has our Money Minute. Hey, Emily.
Hey, guys. Good morning. That's the Search Live feature. It's now available in more than 200 countries and territories and also in dozens of languages. The tool allows users to point their phone's camera at something and ask questions out loud. Then they receive an audio response along with links with additional information. The tech giant is also rolling out the real-time translation feature on iPhones. And after nearly 25 years in Connecticut, the Connecticut Sun women's basketball team is heading to Houston next year. According to multiple reports, the franchise is being sold to the owners of the Houston Rockets in a $300 million deal. According to ESPN, if the deal is approved, the team's expected to use the Comets name, bringing life back to the Houston Comets franchise that was disbanded nearly 2 decades ago. Now, we've reached out and haven't yet heard back. Over in the box office, Project Hail Mary is blasting off. It's now the biggest hit ever for Amazon MGM Studios. The movie starring Ryan Gosling topped the box office again, bringing in another about $55 million domestically in its second weekend. The weekend's only major new release, They Will Kill You, brought in about $5 million domestically. This is a big win for Amazon MGM, which has struggled to find its footing in filmmaking. And guys, this could also be a signal here that maybe there in the future is a comeback for original big budget films.
Right, exactly. That's what drives people to the theater.
That is my favorite movie. Yeah, really. Go see it.
People love
it. Go see it.
And people love Ryan Gosling too. So yeah, it also maybe brought them in.
That helps. All right.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.